Every major health IT vendor is talking about AI right now. But how many are actually putting it into practice at scale? Well, here at the 2025 Oracle Health Summit, we've been hearing the company promise to double down on AI while at the same time leverage more of Oracle's massive product suite, including finance, HR, and supply chain, all to better support healthcare clients. Well, to get past these headlines, I asked Seema Verma, Executive Vice President and General Manager of Oracle Health and Life Sciences, how these commitments are actually going to play out for clinicians and patients. And I wanted to explore with her the promise that Oracle Health will continue to play nicely with others from the healthcare ecosystem. She not only answered those questions, she also talked about how automation and clinical trial integration and how even a new patient portal will change the day-to-day experience for their healthcare customers. Let's get to it. Seema, welcome back to the program.
It's great to be here. Always love talking to you, Colin.
Well, and thank you so much for your hospitality and inviting us down to the Oracle Health Summit. I'm excited to be here. You had a great keynote this morning, lots of announcements. And actually, that's what I really want to dive into more about that with you. But one of the announcements that you made was really around something you mentioned in our last conversation, which was this concept of allowing people to upload best practices, AI agents, and then disseminating it to their peers or perhaps even selling it. Can you tell me more about that?
Sure. Well, it starts with our mission, right? So we talk about transforming healthcare, and part of that transformation is actually improving the quality of care that patients get. And so what we know is that there's innovation going on all over the globe, but we have problems sharing that, right? So if we have great quality care at one institution, we know that people want to share best practices, and that's become very, very difficult. We know that other competitors will say, hey, the IP belongs to me, and sometimes they'll deploy it across the enterprise and sometimes they won't. We really want to give freedom for our providers to be able to share best practices. So it works in a couple of ways. So any of our customers, working off of our AI platform, they can build their own AI agents, so they can share those AI agents, and they can also share some of their clinical pathways or best practices. It could be, how to triage in the emergency room, or here's a better way to treat a diabetic patient. And so you'll be able to shop around for those clinical guidelines, and you can actually compare those based on quality, outcomes, and cost. And so I think it really provides an opportunity to create that sharing. And so for providers on the front lines, if they're looking at something that they haven't seen and they need help and they want to see what's the latest and greatest, they can decide what workflow or what clinical guideline to use. And the great thing about our solution is that it allows for it to be easily adopted and to be put right inside the clinical workflow. So I'm really excited about this because I think that this is going to raise the quality of care across the entire globe.
Well, one of the things you mentioned in your keynote this morning was the fact that Oracle is not a walled garden. And I think the way you put it was, innovation shouldn't be beholden to one organization's product roadmap. This seems to be evidence of that you're allowing people to play in the sandbox.
Exactly. Because, as I said, it all goes back to the mission. Our mission is around transformation, and we have the humility to say, look, we're going to contribute as much as we want, but that nobody has a hold on innovation. And we want our customers and we want patients to be able to avail whatever the best product is out there, whether it's the best clinical pathway, whatever that is. And we think that's so important to the sustainability of the healthcare system, to drive quality, to drive better access. We have to have everybody working together towards this transformation. So the idea of our clinical store, which allows people to shop actually for different clinical pathways and to be able to share, is just a very core component. And the idea of an open ecosystem for Oracle isn't unique. We're doing this across all of our other industries. We put out dozens of APIs so that third parties can also offer innovation. So we're delighted, obviously, if our customers want to use our solutions, but we also recognize that other companies may be driving better solutions or other solutions that they want to adopt, and we want to enable that on behalf of patients and providers.
Well, one of the parts of the ecosystem, the two parts of the ecosystem that you just mentioned, that have never traditionally worked well together, or maybe collaboratively, payers and providers. Part of what Oracle is really focusing on is really bringing those parties together. Can you tell me more about the initiatives you've got on the go there?
Sure. So again, back to our mission, we're trying to solve the greatest challenges in healthcare. And that we know the friction between payers and providers is a pain point on both sides. And also it's actually contributing to a lot of the administrative costs. And you heard that on some of our panels today, that 25 to 30% of the healthcare dollar is just going towards administration. There's a lot of back and forth. And so this new product that we're bringing to market is supposed to try to reduce that friction. Prior authorization is something that's not going to go away. Payers see it as a necessary tool to make sure that evidence-based care is being delivered. And so they're always going to do this, but there is a way to automate this to make it easier so that it doesn't take a lot of back and forth, and so that the payer has the information that they need. And also providers, they know instantaneously whether a prior authorization is even needed. We know a lot of times they're sending prior authorizations that are not needed. And if it is required, that the correct information is there so that the prior authorization request can be completed and can be approved. And for some reason, if it isn't likely to be approved, we're also inviting payers to suggest an alternative treatment or therapy. So the idea here is to create more automation of the process to make it easier for payers and providers to reduce the cost and reduce the friction. And ultimately for patients, that's going to mean that they're not going to have delays in care. And I think that's really an important component of this as well.
And you mentioned this morning as well some work you're doing on the rev cycle side in order to make, you'd call it, I think it was autonomous reimbursement. Yeah. And that is designed to, one, help the providers, but also help smooth out that rough process for patients. Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, so that's a very critical component to what we are doing. We talk about friction, we talk about reducing administrative costs. Go a little bit back and dial back on revenue cycle. If you think about it, the process that we have actually originated in the 70s and the 80s when we were using paper records. And when we went to a digital system, we just took that paper process and we digitized the process. We don't need that anymore. All of the information that we need to be able to process a claim is actually inside the EHR. And because of the platform that Oracle brings, because of our AI data platform, all those different pieces, we're able to take all of this data together and make sense of it. So we are able to do the claims processing, we're able to do the prior authorization request. So we're imagining a new day for rev cycle, and that most of these functions can actually be done right inside the electronic health record.
I gotta admit, when we spoke last and you told me about the clinical trials work that you're doing, I don't think I fully appreciated what that could mean. And then you brought out Michelle Brown and Aidan Brown. You told they were brave to tell their story in front of that giant audience this morning. Then it struck home for me about what the value is of integrated clinical trials. When is that going to be available? What is your vision for that when it's fully formed and fully ready?
Right, so we're seeing pieces of it right away, right? You saw Mike Cecilia talk about the clinical trials, and right inside the patient portal, patients are going to be able to know what they qualify for, which is a huge thing, right? You saw the struggle that Michelle Brown went through because she was searching for which clinical trial, and just by chance, she found clinical trials that saved her son's life, but we shouldn't leave that up to chance. So that's one piece. The other thing that we're doing is that Oracle's always run clinical trials, and now we're bringing AI. So this is going to help these clinical trials go faster, quicker, easier. And we're also allowing for data to be brought from any EHR, whether it's ours or other electronic health records, into the traditional clinical trials suite and clinical trials processes. But what we're talking about in 2027 is that we'll be able to do the clinical trial right inside the EHR. There really is not a need for a separate system, and so we're going to be bringing that together. So in the beginning, right now, we're working on clinical trials matching because we think that that's one of the most critical needs for patients and for providers. We're going to be making our clinical trial suite work better with AI, and then ultimately, we will bring that whole clinical trials suite right inside the EHR.
Again, one of the other things I didn't fully appreciate until I arrived here was just how much power the rest of the Oracle suite can be brought to bear in healthcare. You mentioned the HR side, the supply chain, the ERP side, What can we expect to see moving forward in terms of deeper integration with that set of the part of the suite?
Right, and this is it's a very important part, and so I'm glad that you're bringing this up because at the end of the day, healthcare can't be solved with a single point solution, right? We're not going to solve healthcare problems with just the EHR. We also need all these other components, and that's why we're bringing the suite, right? The suite is the EHR, it's the portal, it's the revenue cycle, but it is also our ERP, supply chain, and HR. So if we just think about some of the challenges in healthcare, you can think about a patient going in for surgery, and you want to make sure that that surgical team that's going to be delivering the surgery actually has the training and the skills. So that's where the HR system comes in. But then it's also supply chain. We want to make sure that we have all the appropriate materials. So it could be that they're getting an implant of some sort, and we want to make sure that we have the right implant at the right time. We want to make sure that the supplies that we're using are not expired. And so that has to connect seamlessly into the EHR. The great thing about our Fusion applications is today that works with any electronic health care record, but we'll have greater integration because at the end of the day, we need to bring all this data together so that the system can work seamlessly.
Now, Seema, you've got a tremendous background, a very diverse background in healthcare, in government. So I have to ask you this question.
Mm-hmm.
We are going through a very tumultuous time, as always in healthcare. What message would you like to deliver to people who are trying to navigate through this time? Because we got economic pressure, political pressure, compliance pressure, regulatory pressure. It seems like everything's happening at once. What message do you have for people to really help them through this?
Yeah, it is a difficult time, but what I'm excited about is that AI and the technology, I think really finally delivers us some solutions that we've never had before. So if we think about problems with access to care, right? We think about scheduling, we think about just quality of care. We can solve those problems with AI. We can solve problems with burnout and actually strengthen our workforce because we have these tools with AI that are helping with notes. Or we can make sure that our paraprofessionals have access to more clinical decision support so they're delivering better quality care. And I think just reducing the burden, reducing the administrative costs, those are things that are going to have tangible results. I couldn't be more excited about healthcare. I know that we have a lot of challenges in front of us, and it seems like it's getting harder and harder, but we also have an incredible tool that we've never had before. And I think these tools, AI, I couldn't be more excited about Oracle as a company that's making this massive investment and commitment to transforming healthcare. Nobody else in the world is doing that. And that makes me excited about the future for healthcare because I think things are finally going to get better.
And final question for you. What message would you send to patients out there who are maybe looking to healthcare for care, but also for some hope because they're seeing exactly what we're seeing in the industry as well? What would you say to patients?
Well, first of all, I think we're all patients at some point, at some time. And I talked about this in my speech, right? Which is that today patients are flying blind. We just don't have the information. We don't understand the information. And I think for Oracle, patients come first. And that's why we were really excited to preview our new patient portal. There's no other portal in the world that's going to deliver what we're delivering, which is, first of all, the patient's longitudinal health record. I mean, think about it today. Our data's in all these disparate places. And we heard about that from Michelle Brown. She has 15 years of data, 6 institutions. It's all over the place. By bringing the data together and then also bringing AI, we're putting AI in the hands of patients so they can use that AI with their longitudinal record and they can have these conversations and they can ask questions. I think it empowers patients in a way that they've never had before. And I'm also excited for patients because I think the tools that we're bringing to the healthcare system is going to deliver them a much better experience, right? Less surprise billing, a better understanding about what it costs, a better understanding about which providers are delivering better care at a lower cost. So again, a new day for patients as well.
Well, Seema, thank you so much for coming on the program. It's been wonderful to chat with you live and in person.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you very much. Good to see you.
I have to say that Seema was very compelling in our sit-down interview. I really appreciated her commitment to being an open and ecosystem-friendly player, one that works well with other vendors, consultants, payers, and researchers. That kind of openness is exactly what we need right now. I'm looking forward to tracking Oracle's progress on that front as well as their AI-forward product roadmap and integration with Oracle's broader suite of products. Check out all the other interviews we did while here at Oracle Health Summit, especially the ones with some of Oracle's clients. And hey, if you enjoyed this interview, please mash that like button and click subscribe for more great interviews like this one. I'm Colin Hung. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next video.